it there? Okay.
Let me begin by saying again that when I arrived, this had been apparently lingering for a period of time, and I met with Norma to talk about a number of things. I think the board needs to be aware that over the next few weeks, we will be bringing a contract for Acumen to, in fact, provide a service agreement for the facility. We will also, during that period of time, be wiring the nursing home for a wireless computer system, and we'll also be putting in new computers at the facility. And the reason I mention all of that because all of that is relevant to what we are looking at here. When I talked to Norma first before reading the RFI, I asked her why this was critical, why the board would want to proceed with this. And I think the response that I received that was most relevant was that she was looking for a customer-friendly facility to assist this board in creating that atmosphere there. And to create that customer-friendly facility, it meant making staff more efficient and more effective and being able to spend more time with the residents in the facility itself. And it also meant finding the way we could make the fewest mistakes possible at the facility, and that included the dispensing of prescription drugs. She felt that, and relayed to me, that there are things that are happening when you, in fact, go down a hallway and attempt to dispense prescriptions. People are not there. You're going back trying to find them. You're not able to make the entries. In our current systems, when you're at a room, you have to do all the dispensing and then go back and try to recall all of your dispensings as you're going down the hall. And that what she was looking at in Far America was a remote handheld system that as you are at the room and dispensing the prescription, you can in fact enter it immediately. You're not waiting until you go back down the hall, and it creates an immediate record of prescriptions dispensed, not dispensed, so that later you have the record. And as she described it to me, she says it's pretty hard when you got a cup with a pill in it to go back later on and talk to somebody coming in to do an audit whether you did or didn't dispense that drug as compared to when you have it available. So the first thing that she commented on and impressed me was the intent to become customer friendly and make sure that we're not making mistakes at the facility. When the second thing, after talking to her about these systems and getting a little bit more information, I went and looked at the request for information themselves. And at the time they came in, and I think that's important and relevant to me, it may not be to commissioners at this time because we're way past that point in time, and as I said, I cannot address what happened during that period of time because I'm not familiar with it. But when this was requested, when it was intended to go forward, the only group or the only submitter that in fact met the qualifications at that time was Far America. And they met the qualifications in that they were ready to go ahead immediately, that they already had the systems that were desired in place, they already had all of the software, and were ready to go with the computers at that time. In all due respect to folks, I'm not criticizing them, but at the time these were open, they were not ready to go. Their EMR system actually came in on January 1st. I have to rely on our staff that looked at the documents, etc., and they found that the only provider that actually qualified at that time, and that was Norma, and I'm not even sure, I didn't get the names of the other people, but we had somebody from MIS on the committee, we had somebody from purchasing on the committee. They looked at it, they decided that that was the only group that qualified at that time. I think that's important to me for the integrity of looking at the documents at the time we requested them. Even though we may be slow in implementing, I think that was still important to me. In addition to that, they, meaning Far America, were currently being utilized and are currently being utilized by Acumen at both Lakeshore and Bayshore nursing homes right now. And if we are, which I anticipate that we are going to enter into that service agreement, with Ecumen here in the date, so everybody is aware, looking at bringing it to the board April 1st for a May 1st implementation, hoping that the board will support it when we give you all the reasons why. But assuming we are going to go with them May 1st, that would be about the same time that Farm America would be able to start dispensing prescriptions, because there is a little bit of lead time into getting prepared and getting the equipment and everything ready to start dispensing. So seeing that Ecumen already is working with them in 2 locations, I thought that was another important issue to give some weight to in who we were going to go with. I looked at the documents, and although Falks has indicated that they are the lower cost provider, I did not see it that way, and here are the reasons why. In their documents, they indicated that they were going to, in fact, provide the prescriptions for minus 13% average wholesale price. But they were going to charge a $4 dispensing fee. Farm America indicated that they were going to, in fact, give us minus 12% average wholesale price, but that they were going to charge us $3.65, which is 35 cents less than the dispensing fee. That 35 cents, there was further information that the average prescription cost was $22. Therefore, adding 22 cents to the Farm America would only bring their cost up to still about 13 cents cheaper per prescription than Falks. In addition, Farm America had the opportunity to take a period of time of prescriptions provided to Chris Jensen. They went back and they reviewed that time period in those prescriptions, and it was one quarter of the year, a 3-month period, and during that 3-month period indicated that their cost would have been about, and I have exact figures if you want, I don't have everything written down, but their cost would have been about $8,000 less than what we were actually charged. So they had that advantage of looking at it, but still they came back and told us that they would be about $8,000 less. 4 quarters, about $32,000 saved a year. I did some further checking to see what Bayshore and Lakeshore's experience had been so far. They indicated that, computed out over the period of a year, that they feel that by going to Farm America, they are going to save $120,000 at one nursing home and $150,000 at the other nursing home. So their experience proved that there were substantial savings that could be realized in the pharmaceutical area. I didn't really look at Thrifty Whites because they didn't qualify and they haven't been interested in it, so I'm not going to really talk too much about anything there because I didn't look at it. I think what I also saw when I looked at the 2 requests for information, which I wasn't part of the committee when they were looking at, but I looked at it and I read everything in there. I saw a real commitment on the part of Farm America to training of staff and participating with staff. And then that brought me back to my conversation with Norma, because one of the things she first told me is she just felt that there was a much, much stronger commitment from Farm America to work with staff on a continual basis in the training. And again, I'm going to put it into her words a little bit, although she may want to say all these things, but she can repeat them if she wants to. But I'm just telling you what impressed me, and that is that she talked about them being there to be partners, and that they are the experts in the prescription area and not the nurses and the people at the nursing home. They're there to take care of the residents and the customers, but that the pharmaceutical provider is the expert, and that she, in her review of the request for information, saw a much greater partnering with Farm America than she did in the one from Falks. And when I read it, and looking at it and looking at those same things, I saw the same thing, because there was many indications and of efforts to train staff and be involved with staff and being there with them. And then also in that same area of what they could provide, there was an indication of them already having worked with this system. and therefore they could come in with the system and train our people immediately, rather than what I saw, and this is not meant to be derogatory towards Falks, I saw it as a fact, and that is that Falks was only going into this on January 1st, and they didn't have the time period and the experience with the system, and it looked more as if there would be a joint training, our nursing home and Falks training each other on how the system worked and what to do in the system, as opposed to Pharmerica being able to come in and train our staff and make sure that our staff understood the system, knew the system, and worked with the system. The system itself and the way it's explained and the handheld units, being able to do it there should create efficiency in our staff, should give them the additional time to be with our residents, our customers. And although there are many other things, I'm going to probably conclude just the presentation with this comment, and then if there are questions or as we go forward, answer any other questions. But I also saw the need. We as a administration, county board, have asked staff to take this nursing home and turn it around and make some changes there. And we are going to go in that direction, one way or the other, and that includes the things that I talked about with Ecumen and with looking at the wireless and putting the computers in and the other things there. And if we're going to go forward and make those changes, then I think we need to support our staff and the people that are coming to us and saying this is a change that they think is beneficial to them as an organization, beneficial to them as a staff, that they believe will make differences and will make changes. And those are the things that Norma told me during that day. Now, I'm not going to sit here and claim to be an expert on pharmaceuticals. I'm not going to claim to be an expert in nursing home administration, but I still believe that if staff comes and is adamant about it and feels that this is one of the things that they need, then I at least feel that I have to be here. If I look at everything which I did, I don't find anything to contradict what I was being told. I see the things there that seem to provide those same answers, then I feel that I need to be here and support staff in making these changes. And so for those reasons and several others as well, as I was looking through the materials, I feel that I have to recommend that the board authorize us to go forward with Pharmerica to provide the pharmaceuticals for Chris Jensen.
Thank you, Al. I think we're going to go right to Norma, because you're going to be here for the whole day with us, and I know Norma has another commitment. So.
Okay. The key words for me are partner, resources, which are shrinking, meaning federal and state tax dollars, and stewardship, the wise use of the money that today 180 residents are paying us for care and services, the wise use of that money. The expectation of vendors who contract with Chris Jensen should be that they're all partners. A partner in providing care and service, a partner in meeting new and evolving standards of practice, a partner in shaping interpretive guidelines from the federal government, a partner in educating staff in those new guidelines, and a partner in recommending new technology and advancements, and a partner in bringing expertise in the pharmaceutical area to Chris Jensen. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has a number of regulations. Nursing home world is highly regulated, more so than nuclear energy. They don't change the regulations, they change their interpretation of the regulations. In April of 2007, a new pharmacy interpretive guideline came out. Chris Jensen had received no advance information about those new regulations from the current vendor. Chris Jensen had had no training in what those new guidelines were to be or any ideas of how to comply with them. Instead, we were asked, what do you need? A partner would have been involved in the drafting of those guidelines because organizations are sent those guidelines for their input. A partner would have been preparing Chris Jensen in advance of April of '07 for those new recommended guidelines, and a partner would have recommended methods and systems to comply. Because make no misunderstanding, we have to pass a survey under these new conditions of participation and interpretive guidelines. So now to bring it to a more real perspective, imagine an X-ray company that we contract with waiting for the nursing home to tell them about a new safe X-ray machine. Now that's pretty ludicrous. Think about a medical lab company waiting for Chris Jensen to tell them about a new blood clot machine to do that lab test. That again is pretty ludicrous. So for Chris Jensen to say, what is it we need with this new interpretive guideline to a pharmacy is ludicrous. That expertise should be coming from them. The nursing home must rely on its expertise of its partners. That's why we have these contracts and have these partnering relationships. We need a pharmacy partner, not a pharmacy vendor. The resources available to Chris Jensen through a PharMerica partnership are great. Involvement in the interpretive guideline development, drafting, brainstorming. Heads up as to what's coming down the pike. Because their book of business is nursing homes, that's their area of expertise. They have information on what the latest survey issues are, which gives us a heads up so we can be ready so we don't get the same deficiencies. They train prior to implementation of new interpretive guidelines, and they train post-implementation. The key was training. It's all about educating their partners in contracts. The geriatric resources that they have developed on their own, which are what does this medication do in the elderly? Because most research is done on 30 to 40-year-old people. That doesn't tell you what happens in the elderly. And then multiple drug resources at the facility. They also led Chris Jensen in new practices and new technology. Because they are the expert in nursing homes, one of them, there are others, they could tell us what was out there and available to streamline our work, to have more face-to-face time with the residents. As you all are well aware, we have cut significant staffing hours at Chris Jensen in the last year in every department. Anything we can bring in to make the staff's job easier, quicker, so they have more face time with the residents is very important to the residents and to our families. This has the potential to do that for us, along with the care tracker system that we will be bringing before the board in the near future. In the end, with PharMerica, Chris Jensen would have a partner, would have enhanced financial stewardship. Just that one cost analysis of $8,000 a quarter, $32,000 a year, and with Ecumen's experience at Bayshore and Lakeshore, if we put 7 hours of nursing assistant on, 365 days a year, we're talking $50,000. So if we could save $120,000, that's 2 more nursing assistants every day at Chris Jensen instead of paying a pharmacy. That's the way I look at it as I try to manage this staff, as staff have worked so well with us and cooperated in the reductions, albeit some are angry as all get out, but most have tried hard. That's one of the ways that we would use the money more wisely and be better stewards, is say, okay, if we put 7 hours on and didn't spend all of the savings on staffing, that's what we could do. To answer the health medics, I can only tell you that the nursing home is not using health medics to its full capacity. When they purchased health medics, they weren't allowed to purchase all modules that they would have liked due to cost constraints. And I don't know who put those cost constraints in place because I wasn't here. But we are not doing our care plans on that. And we're not using the EMAR and the ETAR because we were not allowed to purchase those modules years ago. With the Ecumen contract, we would be involved with the Keen software. They would support it, and they provide training. None of our staff at Chris Jensen have been out to training for the last 15 months. All of us know software changes and evolves, and so we're just not being well supported by health medics. So it is time to have a change in that area as well. For those reasons, I urge you to support the Pharmera contract so that we can indeed have a partner in pharmacy operations for the people of Christiansen.
Thanks, Norma. Other questions? Any questions for Norma? Because you have to leave momentarily. Huh?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Chair Commissioner O'Neill. Norma, when you bill whatever Medica or the feds, as far as whether they're a private pay or whether they're government pay, when you do that billing, is that based on the cost that you pay coming in?
First of all,
for the drugs?
First of all, medical assistance recipients, the pharmacy bills for them. Private paying families, the pharmacy bills the family.
Okay.
We only bill Medicare if it's a Medicare state. And we bill that at our cost plus 50%.
Okay, so as a drug comes to you, you then mark that up 50% additional, and that's what you would then bill Medicare.
We would bill Medicare. Mm-hmm.
And those other instances, the pharmaceutical billings occur directly, then you're telling me.
Mm-hmm. We are not the middle person.
So are we still ranging in that 80% or Medicare? What is our Medicare ratio of patients?
10% so far this year.
10%?
10% of our days are Medicare. The key is, what do you pay for the drug to begin with? And that's where the savings are. When I talked with Ecumen, they told me if you have 5 to 13 Medicare residents per day, you will save a minimum of $10,000 a month with Pharmerica's pricing. We have had 16 per day so far this year. So by that analysis, we should save more than $10,000 per month with the pricing available to us through Ecumen.
But help me out again, and I'm not trying to be slow on this, on the uptake here, but you said you billed them what you were billed plus 50%.
Yeah, but we don't get that money. We don't get that amount.
What do you get?
There are...
I'm asking you to help me understand this, because I know there's numbers I'm missing here.
What you really have to understand is the cost of the drug coming in the door to us for Medicare recipients. The lower that cost is, the more money we make, because the federal government has 44 rates for Medicare people in nursing homes. And we go through a 10-page assessment called the minimum data set, which then you arrive at which of those 44 rates you will be at. And that's the most you can be paid from Medicare. Then Medicare will analyze a cost report and see if our costs were higher or lower, or if there was anything fraudulent that may have occurred, and then tell us we owe them money back, or they may owe us some money. So if we pay $50 for something and we bill Medicare $75, they do not pay us $75. It just doesn't happen.
Can I follow?
Sure.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Mitt. Irma, help me understand just a little bit more. One of the statements that was brought up was the issue with the influenza outbreak or whatever type of an outbreak that occurred. Where do you go today if you order pharmaceuticals and you can't get them through your present supplier?
That's not our problem. The pharmacy has to supply it. That's the contract.
Okay, but you're telling me you don't have that issue today then? At all?
I'm telling you that no nursing home has that issue. That's
Okay.
why they have a contract with the pharmacy. It is the pharmacy's job to do whatever they have to do to get that medication.
Okay. Is there a time period?
Well, in a situation like that, it would be as reasonable as possible in
Okay.
whatever time period that you can. Physicians will make orders and they'll say, I want this to start stat, and we are to have it within 2 hours. Now, something like the Tamiflu that was ordered for the flu we had 2 cases of flu, 1 death, and then it didn't spread anywhere else because of the quick action of the staff and the medical director and obtaining the Tamiflu to begin that therapy. But that's what you have a contract for.
And again, trying to understand this because I'm a big believer in local. Always have been, always will be. But my question is, Farm America, when you say you have to get these drugs then within 2 hours, do they have a facility in Duluth?
They contract with the local pharmacy to deliver it within the 2-hour time frame.
Okay, so then they sublet when they can't deliver?
Within 2 hours, yes, they do.
So then they would be, you're telling me they may be subletting with Falls?
I have no idea who they sublet with. The Ecumen facilities
Right.
have their drugs come from
I'm
the
just-
Walgreens.
Just so it's clear, there are minimal 2-hour requirements upon admission, et cetera, as I understand it, from there. The rest of the contract, there's a lead time for all the prescriptions. So you're talking about a small amount of the overall
correct.
prescriptions.
Okay. And that's helpful.
It's that small amount that you're talking about, that there's some type of subcontract.
That there would still be a
Somebody
need
else.
to get local.
There is.
The majority of it will still come direct from Farm America, and there's all kinds of language in their proposal about timeliness, et cetera, and we also check that out with Bayshore and Lakeshore, and there's no issue there at all on the timeliness. Okay?
And Commissioner O'Neill, and my statement to this then would be this. I live in a small town in central St. Louis County. I'm not in northern St. Louis County, but one of the problems is when you have that immediate need. What do you do when the small town pharmacies disappear? What do we do as a community, the community of St. Louis County, when our small town people go away, because they will, if you keep doing these types of contracts?
Can I answer that?
I'm down to 1 in my community, and I got to tell you, it's an issue for me, because there are days when my schedule, I'll arrive home and say I am out of insulin, and I have to run in and get it that evening. Not when I arrived back from D.C. the last time. I realized that I needed to go in and get it, and that's available when you have a pharmacy there. Where if I was mail ordering, and I would have an issue with that. So that's the reason I led the questioning in that direction, because it worries me that we lose. That if we lose too many, it's going to start affecting our community. That's what worries me.
We're truly not talking about the local pharmacy here. We're talking about a specialty area that is dealing with nursing homes. They're not dealing with counter prescriptions and these situations. Not even Falks really has a separate entity that deals with the nursing home. And I understand your argument and certainly have no issue with the fact that pharmacies are needed, but people are still going to be going to those pharmacies, picking them up. This is a much larger arena that these people are dealing in with nursing homes, etc.
Yeah, I was born and raised in a small town. Small town, it's 18,000, smaller than Duluth. And so I hear your question, but in the role that I'm in this situation, I'm trying to operate a business, as you well are familiar with. And if I can save $120,000 and put it into a human resource to serve the resident, then that's what I need to do. That's where I'm at. And I don't know how you answer the local business. I want us to be good stewards of the resource. So if $120,000 can be at Chris Jensen to put 2 more nursing assistants for patient care, then that's what we should be doing by signing a Farm America contract. That's what it comes down to for me. And I do need to go to interview a social worker because we have a position open. So I thank you for your time. And you know where to find me if you have more questions.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Appreciate your time.
Yes.
Are there other questions?
And then it's my presentation back, right?
Commissioner Fink, if you want to ask a question, if you want to make a statement, it's your turn.
Falk's presentation centered on technology and the fact that the technology exists. Important to do that because when you write contracts or when you write RFPs, the problem that the wonderful challenge you have is that if you know something that everybody else doesn't know, the opportunity to write that within the contract, within a specification of the contract, absolutely is wonderful. I know that because as a salesman, I had a cable in selling utilities that was uniquely different than everybody else's. And my job was to go into the engineering firms and the engineering organizations within the utilities and convince them to spec my product. When they spec'd my product, it made everybody else not compatible. So that their bids came in and they would throw them all out. Turns out that I licensed, or our company licensed another major company, so if I got the project personally, my company made out. And if my licensee got the project, we made out because we got a licensee fee. But all the rest of the people in the organization was thrown out because they couldn't qualify. They didn't meet the specification. You have no idea how many years I spent making sure specifications were read so that I could bid. Here we're talking about a pharmacy that's been supplying us for years, responding to every one of the challenges that come in based on their service, that somebody else's idea of what absolute service should be. This is not the first time that an organization has said, gee, you ought to consider us. We talked about White Drug the last time around, and White Drug came in and said, you know what? We can do this better because the fact of the matter is that you guys are holding 30 days supply of drugs. And during the time frame, our management said, you know what? Buying in quantities is better. All we need to do is have a return policy. Folks said, we have a return policy. You can do that. The other company said, you know what you really need, because this is new and leading edge technology, is 7-day bubble packs that allows you to dispense the drugs exactly what you need and not have the amount of throwaway that you would have, which causes you to have a negative impact on the drug industry. And folks said, that's true, and we can do that. In fact, we've been asking to do that. The document that you have in front of you that summarizes where we want to go and where they should be going suggests to you that almost in every paragraph that what the county has moved towards over the years, they have encouraged us to do. For example, they can in fact interact with our computer program to do exactly what Farm America is saying that they need to do. In fact, so much so that most of us, including Norma, didn't even know that that particular piece was available until just recently. And we are saying, Folks has been saying, get to speed so that we can do this. Get to speed so that we can be more leading edge technology as we move forward. The question of whether or not there's $20,000, $50,000, or $100,000 worth of savings involved here is demonstrated more practically and more realistically in the comparison document that was on the back end of the documentation. Norma is very good at pointing out that if all things were exactly as she says they should be with Farm America, that there is potential and possibility. But so does the new drug contract from Falk's, side-by-side comparison. There is little or no difference. Where there is savings in one side for Farm America, there is savings in another side for Farm America. But let's think about what we're talking about here. The nursing home business is a $15 million business proposed for 2008, 14.8 in 2007. 12 million of that was labor. Another $2.5 million worth, this $2.7 million of that was contractual services. And then comes the materials, $1.2 million. And not all of that is drugs. In fact, not a lot of that is drugs. But we have a local pharmacy who has suggested over the period of years that they can provide products and services to the general public and recognize that there is a need for some kind of development in their local area for a industrial pharmacy, so to speak. Nursing home business is changing. Lake County has just signed their Ecumen contract, and Ecumen is now, not only were they the leaser of the facility for a few years, but they are going to be the owner. And Farm America will do the work. In Itasca County, the same thing is happening. After years of change and work with Ecumen, they too are moving to a sale in which Ecumen will move their pharmaceutical people into play. This is not unique. Benedictine uses a special group as well. Local pharmacies, as already stated, are going to have to depend on the general public because a number of these smaller houses are finding that it's just too difficult for them to continue. And yet, we have a document in front of us that compares prices that says there's no significant difference. We, St. Louis County, are a driver. We are a economic engine of the local community. How we play in that game demonstrates what the future of this community is all about. We can sit here and argue line by line whether or not this makes a difference on a specific formula or not a specific formula, but if you noticed in the newspaper last week, the federal government just set up what they said is going to be the right discount price for drugs as it relates to Medicare. They just absolutely said this is what your pricing structure is going to be. Now Norma's right, we're probably able to add something on to that, but here's what the discount is supposed to be, and they just announced it, said this is what it's going to be. Turns out it's actually going to be the AWP 13 and then some number. But the issue for us as a county board is to say the following. We are in the nursing home business for better or worse. We don't do very good. But the issue for us is not do we do very good with the pharmacy. Because as demonstrated by both folks, our current pharmaceutical group responds and they respond immediately. And it's likely that the other one will respond to me as immediately as well. What you have to decide is whether or not it's important to us to have a local supplier. I think it's absolutely prudent that we have local suppliers because that demonstrates that entrepreneurialism in our area is alive and well, or at least potentially alive and well. Are they partners? I don't know. I thought I heard a partnership that said, geez, we worked all night in order to make sure that we could get the product to you at this late in the season for the potential of flu and a flu outbreak. This is not the first time. It will likely not be the last time. Is there going to be substantial savings? I told you the $1.2 million was the materials that Chris Jensen purchases on an annual basis. Some number less than half of that is the total drug contract for Chris Jensen. Is it a big product? When Norma Stark talks about $120,000, it's probably unrealistic that you could reach that total even if everything was perfect. And Mr. Mitchell said perhaps where he saw it there was $48,000. He and I could argue for days as we go through this contract over nickels to get us maybe to $2,000 or $3,000 advantage one way or another when it's all said and done. The real situation, the real message here is on the ground. How quickly do people respond? Are they going to respond? Are we going to have support staff here in St. Louis County? Does the 13 employees that some entrepreneur has, how important is that to the 14 or 18 or 20 employees or 50 employees that are in some other community who's using the computer to come in this area? I just think that when we look at these kinds of things, we need to be very careful. Now, let me tell you straight out. If Ecumen enters into some kind of a contract with us that says that they operate the facility, not just component parts of it, but they operate the facility, then they should get to choose who their drug supplier is. And if that happens to us in the next week, it happens to us in the next month, or it happens to us in the next year, or 2 years, or 3 years, then they should continue to have that right. But the nursing home is run by St. Louis County. We get to choose. And we need to consider all the possibilities, not just one of them. We need to consider all the possibilities. But how important is it to the nursing home? How important is it to the county board? How important is it to the community? And how sustainable is business in that community afterwards? And I would ask you to send a message, not a strong one, but at least a one for the time being, that until some permanent form of agreement with some other organization to operate the nursing home moves forward, and we are looking down that road, that we stay with Falk's Pharmacy.
Thank you, Commissioner Fink. Other questions? Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioner O'Neill. Al, I guess the question I would ask is, is Farm America participating in any of the hard costs up there of turning the facility into wireless, in any of the software for these programs? What is the participation of the provider within these upgrades we're talking about making?
Those are all county costs in either situation.
So if during this process, if I may continue, if during this process, if we were to say perhaps to do a 6-month extension here to allow us to evaluate the impact of putting in this type of technology and how it would and how it's going to play out, there wouldn't really be any additional costs incurred by the county other than those marginal costs that may be cost savings that may be garnered by making that switch. I'm asking if we had a period of time to further evaluate this, if that would be something that would make sense.
Well, Commissioner Nelson, that's very difficult to answer. I'm not sure what you would evaluate during the period of time. If there isn't a changeover to the other system, if you're not really evaluating anything, you're just continuing on as you are. If you don't go to the handheld monitors, if you don't look at the other company and give them the opportunity to see what you're truly saving or not saving, there's nothing really to compare against. We already have all the comparisons for Falk, and I have no argument against Commissioner Fink knows this already. I've told him that, I'm not arguing against him here. I am just simply trying to present the other side, and as I said, I feel that the staff has to be supported. I understand fully purchasing local, and as I said, when this is over, whatever way it goes, administration is going to go back and do a contract, whatever way the vote goes, and it really isn't important. But like I said, the answer to your question is I don't really see what we would evaluate or what we would be evaluating during that period of time. One last thing, just so, as I said, I intend to bring a contract for Ecumen. And on the cost savings, Ecumen has a separate and different agreement with Farm America. And one of the things I was going to try to do is, if you went with Farm America now, to implement that cost savings immediately. They have a lower price yet that they've negotiated because of the number of homes that they have. Whether that's better in 6 months or better now, that I can't answer. I don't know, but we were going to try to implement that right away. So the savings, just so you know, the savings I'm talking about are what they talked about 4 or 5 months ago without Ecumen having a contract or without utilizing those savings. That's why you see the difference between what we're talking about in their proposal and what Lakeshore and Bayshore are actually realizing. Lakeshore and Bayshore are, one is actually a smaller nursing home than ours, the other is approximately the same size.
Both of those facilities are owned and operated?
They're being operated by Ecumen.
Okay. And the reason for the question, I thought one of the things that was indicated is that, you know, we were going through this work process to upgrade the facility, and my question was, I thought I heard folks say that, you know, they're on board with being able to do all of that, and when I asked about evaluating it, I thought if we are looking at adding that technology into our facility, I guess I looked at it and said, we've got a supplier right now, we're making some technological changes, you know, are we in a better position to stick with who we have for the period of time as we integrate this new system in, and then try and evaluate that through that? That was the reason for the question, was make all the changes right now, or do you kind of phase them into?
And the answer to that question is not my answer, but Norma's not here, so I'll give you her answer because I asked pretty much the same thing. Her answer to me was that no, they are familiar with the system, we are not. They will come up and do the training. We're not comfortable that folks will do the training or whether we'll be working jointly to train each other on it. We believe that there's a better opportunity to implement it faster and more correctly with PharMerica. And that was her answer to me, not my answer.
Very good, thank you.
Perhaps we ought to ask the same question to Falks, since Steve is here to talk about it.
I thought our chair had given me a lot of latitude already, and I'm certainly thinking that additional question.
I mean, we have had well over an hour of discussion. Fox has given a lengthy presentation. You know, I mean, Commissioner Nelson, if you have another, or I'm sorry, Commissioner Fink, if you have another question, feel free to ask it. But I feel like we have, you know, played this out pretty well. So.
Okay, well then I would, Mr. Chair. I would probably have 2 points then, one question, and I would ask Steve Preston to respond to Commissioner Nelson's question as well. And the question was the training, the training piece of the technology that we seem to be.
I heard 2 different softwares. Number one, the one you have now, which you already own the module for, and the one that Ecumen's thinking about, which we can interface with both. Our pharmacy system can interface to either system. It really doesn't matter. All we're doing is uploading data.
You might want to come up here so that we can not only hear you, but the tape can pick it up.
Yeah, what we're doing is uploading data from a paper med sheet to an electronic med sheet. Granted, you're still going to have hardware put in, but that's IT people. You have IT people in your county, or whether the software companies that you are going to deal with do the training, it really makes no difference. Because they're going to have to do the same thing, whether it's that software company or your IT people, as far as putting in wireless laptops or whatever. We're just saying we can interface with either softwares. We don't care what you're on. We have that capability. That's no more than any other pharmacy is going to do. The difference is we can electronically attach to that software, which means we can upload the data directly. The difference with what PharMerica is doing is your nurses will data input. There is no interface between the pharmacy and the EMARC system, because we already know what's operating at Bayshore and Lakeshore. And by the way, Lakeshore just went on February 1st, so there's no savings, because they couldn't possibly know if there was one yet. Bayshore went in June. They just got the software up and running in November.
Would you indulge me one more question? I'm a technological dummy, okay? So when you use these statements, I have to get it straight in my mind. You're saying that the system we presently have is something that we can upgrade to?
You already own the software according to your rec, the electronic EMAR.
Is there a cost to the new software we're putting in to be compatible with their system, or are they providing that for free?
No, it's a major cost.
There is a
I'm asking
there's
you
a
that
major
question.
cost all the way around, both the wireless system,
Right,
the computers, which we actually do not have yet,
right.
and implementing the software.
You would have the hardware cost no matter what.
Okay.
We're
But
gonna
we're
have-
buying the software?
They are billing us on a percentage basis on the front end, and the rest will be in fact charged against the number of beds that they're servicing over the period of time.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I have 2 points on that thing. Why don't we just get started on this thing and see if we can get to a vote?
I hope we've been started already, Dennis.
Well,
Commissioner Kraut.
Thank you for indulging me again, Mr.
Sure.
Chair.
Norma was talking about when the nurse goes in and dispenses a drug to the patient and then does the documentation going down the hallway or something.
Well, currently they're doing it on paper. The difference is you do it electronically, either on laptops or handhelds.
You have the capability.
We have the capability to
do that.
interface to that system. Yes. And not only can we interface it, we can do the automatic uploads, which means your nurses don't have to do all the data input. The other system that Farm America is proposing, Lakeshore and Bayshore have both had to do all the data input. So they have to build a bed sheet. With our the framework system that we put in is very, very sophisticated software. It's less than a year old. And it has the ability to interface with both of those EMAR programs that you are considering. One you're considering, one you already have.
And then just so we know, why haven't we been doing that, or haven't you approached
And we've
us to
been
do
talking
that?
about
or-
this for a long time. All we kept hearing is the contract's not up, the contract's not up.
So
We have a 7-day system and we're not changing until that contract.
You haven't attempted to.
We haven't
say
tested
let's-
over the
let's
last year to push this idea is very new. It's less than a year old.
Thank you. Al?
And just to respond to one thing that Steve
Sure.
said, because I don't want there to be a misunderstanding, okay? As I indicated earlier, we asked Ecumen about both Bayshore and Lake Shore. This is quote, okay? We were with Pogs for an extended period of time, approximately 12 years. In utilizing Farm America, Lake Shore is projecting a $150,000 savings, and Bayshore approximately $120,000. Bayshore has transitioned 6 months ago, and Lake Shore is in its second month, close quote. So the information I was giving you is right with John Korsendorfer, who I think you've met, who came up with the
Yes.
Ecumen
Yep.
people, gave us as a quote. That's all I'm doing is repeating
That's
that. okay?
impossible because the AWC lessons are essentially identical.
Okay, well,
okay.
okay. Mike? Commissioner Forrest?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I look at the numbers and I absolutely understand the email that our administrator got from Ecumen, but I'm reminded the last time that we went this go around, and we did go through this go around, and it was with White Thrifty Drug, if I remember correctly, and stuff. And at that time, the company that we had managing our nursing homes were aligned with White Thrifty Drug, and the savings were going to be with White Thrifty Drug because they were aligned with them. Farm America didn't even play into the thing. Ecumen is aligned in my mind, at least with Farm America, and so I would suspect that when you're looking at numbers, you're going to favor the people that you are aligned with, and I actually believe that they probably do get a better deal. They work the more nursing homes you have. It's much the same as mining companies don't pay the same amount of for gas and fuel as as we would there, you know, and, probably the same as Keith does. I just said that kidding around there, but
Hey, I'm used to getting picked on. Go ahead.
but anyway, I looked at things, and you can look at it for whatever it's on. Under reasons to stay with Fox, these are some of my reasons that I would, you know, I was trying to make that mental thought of which way to go here. Reasons to stay with Fox, some of my reasons are, first of all, local jobs. Okay, I see more local jobs with Fox than I would with Farm America. I see a local taxpayer, and I don't know about how many dollars Fox Pharmacy pays in taxes, but I suspect it's relatively on their buildings, on their whatever. I believe that. I also believe that as a local taxpayer, they probably buy their vehicles locally. They probably buy a lot of those things locally that I don't believe that you would see from Farm America. Right? Just gut feeling. Just gut feeling. I think that, you know, on a purely political note, I said I put a note here. Fox staff, families, customers vote in districts 1, 2, 3, and 5. That's not my district, by the way, but I'm thinking, you know, I mean that they do, you know, I mean, so I'm just kind of picturing, you know, how people that might be political might think about this. So, not that I am. So, but I just thought I'd pass that along. Then the other thing, and the reasons to say to go to Farm America. To me was an obvious that there at least is to our administration, to Norma, who works for Ecumen, that and I like Norma. I think she's brilliant up there, but nevertheless, I think that their presentation shows that we would save some dollars by going to Farm America. Yeah. Then now I'm going to only speak as a range commissioner from northern St. Louis County, and this is only from that thing. Is that if we are to lose more dollars at Chris Jensen, it makes it in a much better position for us to take and sell the nursing home, you know, because it's not in as good a position. So in other words, I see it as a northern commissioner, by staying with Fox, I get all of those benefits that I think. Then plus the fact that if I failed and I was wrong and it costs more, maybe we could take and sell Chris Jensen, maybe, and then because it looked a bit worse. So I can't lose either way. So I think I'm going to stay with Fox. So
thank you, Mike. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks for your presentation, Chris. Okay.
You want a resolution?
I'm ready for Al to give us his recommendation. And to...
He did.
I did.
Okay.
You need a resolution to vote on.
Okay. So our resolution then is that we're recommending that we turn this contract to Farm America as recommended by our staff and our administrator. Is that clear to everybody?
How did you get there?
Okay. I'll make that motion. Okay. Is there a second for that motion? Seeing no second. That motion.
I'll support it.
Okay.
Discussion.
Supported for discussion. Okay. Questions? Commissioner Ralph.
Thank you, Chair O'Neill. You know, if I were to look back at my voting record with respect to voting on issues about Chris Jensen, I have been consistent about supporting every effort to make this facility operable with minimal subsidies as is possible, whether it was operating issues or capital improvement issues. I have consistently voted to support the issues that would help in the effort to reduce the public subsidy that Chris Jensen has been operating on for 15 to 20 years, whatever the case may be. And in this instance, I'm inclined to continue to do so to support the administrative and the operators management's recommendation in support of this change. I do think it would be disingenuine for me not to, because of that commitment I've made to try to make this nursing home feasible to continue to operate and to be owned by the county. And that's really kind of the bottom line in my position. As Commissioner Forsman pointed out, politically, maybe, voting, opposing this administrative recommendation is effectively saying, well, this makes the nursing home more less cost effective and more apt to continue to fail and more apt to continue to need operating subsidy. And I think that's probably a true statement. So I'm going to support this recommendation as I have in the past because I've made that commitment to try to make it happen.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sweeney and then Commissioner Forsman.
Well, we spend a lot of money to hire an administrator. We spend a lot of money to hire people to come in there and tell us what will make this work better out there. And I can't even say it any better than it's been said already, and that's that as much as I am somebody who and have supported in the past doing this, I am trying to find every efficiency, every way that we can possibly save money up there to preserve that facility, those jobs here. And I realize, and it hurts me terribly to think of any jobs going out of the area, but people are importing, re-importing, doing all kinds of things to try and get the cost of medical care down. And if we have to go someplace else to get that cost of those drugs down, maybe somehow that will bring a message, and at some point our local people are going to be able to provide it in that same way. I don't know whether it actually can save it or not. When you hear numbers like $150,000 out at Lakeshore, it hasn't even been in operation 2 months or something like that.
Projection.
So it's just a projection. But I guess I'm very ambivalent at this point about not supporting the people that we've paid good money to come in and advise us on how to get to this point, to get to some savings and some things that will preserve that nursing home.
Thank you. Commissioner Forsman and then Commissioner Nelson.
First of all, let me say that those that don't know me, some things I say more for just because I got a little bit of levity and a little bit of devil in me that takes and says those things. And that's part about putting Chris Jensen in a better position to be sold. I've been very supportive of Chris Jensen all along. So, I said that just saying it, for whatever. But at any rate, I think that from my point, we talked about jobs. I just want to say that if we look at talk about jobs, the only jobs in St. Louis County are not in the nursing home, are not working for St. Louis County. They are very important jobs, and I've been supportive of them, and I continue to be supportive of them at every place I can. But at the same time, jobs in the private sector are the people that pay the taxes that keep this county going. And right now you've got local jobs somewhat on the line. This is a big contract. If it wasn't a big contract, you wouldn't have all of those seats filled from the corner all the way to there. That's how, to this company, it's very important to them that they keep this. They pay taxes in St. Louis County. I'll bet you, I don't know this, but I'll bet you $100 they pay a lot more taxes in St. Louis County than Farm America does. I also bet that the people that work for them own homes in this community, in this area. And the other thing is, when they buy their cars, when they buy their refrigerator, when they buy all of the things that they purchase, those people are going to spend money in our community because it makes a difference. Ecumen doesn't have a horse. They have a horse in this race, but it's a horse they're trying to protect. They're salesmen. I listen to Ecumen when they come in. They're great managers of nursing homes, or they wouldn't be in the business. But they're salespeople. That's what they're out there trying to do. They're trying to sell their product to us, and they're also trying to sell the company that they've got to deal with, and they probably do get a darn good deal from Farm America. I'm not going to dispute that. But again, it's about all jobs are not county jobs. Those local purchases, those local taxpayers, those local jobs are probably those local businesses. You know what? we'd kiss the butt of 1 million people to take and put their businesses into our county. But I tell you what, we'll drop kick anybody that's already here out if we have the opportunity. I don't think we should be doing that. I really think we should be supporting those businesses that are here. Now, if and I'll stop with this. If we turn over to Ecumen the management of our thing, which is a possibility, very good possibility. At that point, we're somewhat out of the picture because we're saying, no, you manage it. But right now, well, we as a board have an opportunity to take and support some local taxpayers, some local people, some local jobs. And I don't just mean up at the nursing home. I mean in Duluth and all of the places that are out there. We should be doing that. Like I said, we quickly will drop kick somebody out of our county if they're local for somebody far away. And I just don't believe in it. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner O'Neill. One of the things that when I first started on this board, I had very little patience. Sometimes I still have very little patience. But the fact of the matter is that I would like to remind 3 of my fellow commissioners of some of the discussions we've had at the Solid Waste Subcommittee about jumping in when projections show this or jumping in when projections show that, and how our cautious approach has saved us millions of dollars over the years. And I'm looking at this. I have to tell you that if these dollars, thank you, Chair Commissioner O'Neill. I have to tell you that if those contracts that Farm America has with the other 2 nursing homes that Ecumen manages, if they had a track record, if they could show me hard numbers over 12 months that there were the types of savings that they're talking about, I would be hard-pressed not to vote for those based on the health of our nursing home facility, based on the tax dollars that we are expending to keep that nursing home facility alive. But they're projections. And I got to tell you, if anybody here wants to open up a pencil stand down in the corner, I can give you some projections for the next 12 months that you can feed your family if you care to pay me enough money. I'll do that because I'll write that pro forma, and I'll make certain that it looks very good. For that reason, I would like to see us sit back, look at this. Perhaps, I had suggested 6 to 8 months, perhaps as long as till the end of this year. If those numbers prove out, and if we're not doing that with folks, then my vote's going to change. I'll tell you that right up front. But I'm going to err on the side of caution that several commissioners around this table have convinced me that erring on the side of caution is perhaps a better way to go. So in this particular case, and I'm not prepared to make it as a friendly at this point, but I will actually at the end of the discussion. What I may be asking for is that we extend this contract for a period of 8 months or till January 1st of 2009 to continue this evaluation process. And I'll tell you right up front, if the numbers prove out, I'm going to be there on the other side. But I don't think that those numbers are going to prove out. I think there's some very good gamesmanship going on here on the part of Ecumen and Farm America. And Mike's right. They are good salespeople. They're good managers. And if I was running the company, I got to tell you, I'd be standing in front of this board saying the exact same thing that they're saying, which is, we're going to save you a bunch of money. But for that reason, I'm going to err on the side of caution and try and get an extension and ask administration to continue to monitor these numbers and let's see where it takes us.
Thank you. Commissioner Sweeney?
Yeah, let's talk for just 1 second or two about when it is that we expect to have the contract to transfer the management of this, or whatever portions of management, to Ecumen? Because we haven't really finished those discussions, but it would seem to me that if we are, having difficulty coming around to following management's suggestion here on this issue, that it might be wise to just go on the way we are for a period of time until we finish that, and then, depending on how much control you turn over, letting Ecumen and the management up there do what they see fit. I think someone said it early on, maybe it was Commissioner Nelson, I'm not sure, that if we had already made that decision,
Actually, Commissioner
okay,
Fink.
it was Commissioner Fink, but so maybe that's the way to do this, is to just continue, as we were saying something about April, May as a time frame in which we would be making some decisions and have some things in place. So that isn't all that much longer to continue with the drug plan that we have right now, and then go forward.
Okay, Al, let me ask you that same question.
Well, like I said, I have to make this comment because I think you have to hear this, and that is you're taking a short term and making it where there can be no progress. Whether you realize it or not, there cannot be progress during that period of time. Now, if you want no progress there, then that's your decision. You can't wait for 2 months and then decide that you're going to look at something and do it in 4 months. Either we have to go one direction or the other. We're looking at putting in a system. We're looking at going with Ecumen. We're looking at doing Care Tracker. We're looking at doing all these types of things, and these decisions are going to have to be made. If you're talking about looking at staying with Falks, which is perfectly fine, I'm not trying, but I want you to understand. I don't want you to make decisions where you're not understanding what you're doing. What you're doing here is you're not taking advantage of a cost savings at the facility. You're not taking advantage of a company that's going to come in and provide training. You're not taking, so if you don't take advantage of those things, then you have to take the consequences that goes with not taking the advantage. And the consequences is that you will have staff more tied up with the work that they have to do. You won't have the efficiencies. You will not save, whether it's $60,000 or $120,000, you will not save it. You will not have the ability to train these people immediately and have them use this system for a year, 2 years, 5 years, or whatever it is. They will either train on one system now, and then you will incur those additional costs to train them again in 2 months, 4 months, or 6 months, whatever you think. You're going to come back and look at this on a totally different system if you're making a change. We have the opportunity today to make a decision that will either keep us with Falks or will take us over to Farm America. You will make that decision. Whatever you make that decision is, we're going to have to try to work with them. You're being told, and the documentation is there, whether you accept it or not, whether you think they're salesmen, whether you think they're something else, and that's your right to think it. But the numbers are still there. The staffing is still there. All these things are still going to be there, and whatever way you go today on pharmaceuticals is where we're going to be. The May 1st date was the time period it will take to transfer over to that system, because there are things we have to do if we're going with it. Not at that point make some decision to go over. We have to do this now if we're going to go over in May. If you want to go over in June or July, then fine, we can make the decision in May. But as I said, we've looked at these documents, we've looked at the numbers, we've looked at the pharmaceuticals. Like I said, they utilized the cost that was actually incurred from July 6th to September 6th, 2006. And based upon those numbers, they said we can save $60,000 roughly, just by giving you the pricing that we have. That's not the pricing they give Ecumen. If we're going to go ahead with Ecumen here in another month, and we're going to do the other things, then there's going to be greater savings. If we're going to do nothing, then we might as well just accept that the nursing home is going to have to be subsidized. You folks can't come in and tell us that you want the nursing home to break even or be subsidized for $500,000 and do nothing, and then raise the issue with us. When we come back, why is it that this home is costing this kind of money? So I don't have a horse here. I am serious. I understand local purchasing. I want you to understand what your decision means, and when you make it, understand why we're going to be back and that home is going to have to be subsidized. That's all.
Thank you. I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess here because I have got to have a recess.
No problem.
Here. Personal question. But I need a recess. Yeah. This is the
Your question or comment in, or you were about to?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's always fun to argue with Attorney Mitchell, particularly about the things that... she is an attorney.
That's right, he's both.
It was in the contract.
Acting as an administrator.
Acting as an administrator. It's always fun to do this because usually I come prepared, and so does he. So that makes it a lot of fun. But there are disconnects that we have from time to time on how we go about doing some of these things. I don't disagree at all with many of the things that Mr. Mitchell says in terms of make sure you're looking at long-term solutions. Be sure you're careful about not missing a decision that may impact you negatively in the future. All of those things we can agree on. But the reality is the software package that we need in order to interface with either Farm America or Falks already exists in our facility. It's not utilized, but it already exists. And the real issue is not going to be whether or not we have the little laptops that are going to go around on the computer. We're buying them already. We're doing that. The capital expenditure is going to be there. The real issue comes up in this tight interface. Let me just kind of pick a thing. If you have a computer system right now that was built in 2000 and you try to run Microsoft version 9 on it, and we're up to 12 or 13 or 15 at this particular moment, you'll get absolutely nothing. And if all your files, if you change over from a computer that was built in 2000 and was using Microsoft 9, and you bought a new computer today, you cannot interface the two of those, of the new software package that will come with your computer that will probably be Microsoft 12 or 15 or whatever it is, whatever the current model. It just doesn't interface. They don't do that. And if your files are saved, the likelihood is you lost them as well. It's the way technology is. So when we start talking about the interface between how these things work, the one issue is to make sure that there's a compatibility. Now, I don't know where all the compatibility is and where it isn't, but I know this. I actually did the research on the various software packages that are out there, and the software packages are somewhat independent, so you have to figure out which ones are interactive. In addition to that, I think it's important for us to say, no matter what we do here today, is there a possibility? No, not a possibility. Why isn't there a demand for us to say to whomever our pharmaceutical group is, get in there and force this change? As the document says, I actually read it. You would know that would be the case. The document says here that there's been an indication that they've been trying to make changes, prescribed changes for some time to utilize that facility. But the message keeps coming, and rightfully so, by the way, because they knew about this, that the contract was coming due. Contract date on the original document, let me just pull out the original document here, The closing of the bids was on August 31st, 2007. August 31st. Now, in our bidding process, you all know that there needs to be a 30 to 45 day process before that. So that means that these bids were out somewhere around the 1st of June or the 1st of July, or sometime during that period of time. So for the most of last year, we were already dealing with the fact that the contract was coming due. The fact that we didn't get where we needed to go really shouldn't be a penalty to either side. But it is a penalty. And shouldn't be. I don't know where we're going to go in the future, where you should be going in the future. I know this. For the county board, we are looking at all kinds of things that save some money. But to do that, we're taking some risks. Later on today, we'll spend $80,000 on Chris Jensen. We're going to spend $80,000. And you know what? Over the last 2.5 years, we spent $2.5 million on Chris Jensen improvement, all with the understanding that that will help us move somewhere. But let me ask each one of you. All the money we've spent so far, and the savings that we will achieve on each of those, will in fact, over a period of time, return capital investment to us. We'll get a return on that somewhere along the line. At least I think we will. That's why we spent the money. But you know as well as I do that with 80% of our cost, $10 million on labor and another $2.5 million on service contracts. But the fact of the matter is that if we're going to make inroads in how Chris Jensen goes, it is not going to come with those things that are nickel and dime. It is going to come with those big cost items and efficiencies and right-sizing the organization. And we're moving in that direction. The contract that comes up in June, or whenever it comes up, these next couple of things are going to be minor things again. We're going to be looking at, do we do accounting all through the same spot? Does the billing come out of a same spot? And they are not significant in terms of themselves, but they are, in fact, some kinds of savings. Here, we really do have the opportunity to look internally. And I got to tell you, I think if we say no to Commissioner O'Neill's resolution at this particular point, and support Falks at this point, we ought to also include a clause in that says, get in there and help them implement, when the computer programs come in, our system with their system. And I have a feeling that they'll do that.
Can I just respond to that so it's clear to all the board members?
Sure.
The software is not the same in this. And we don't have the software. And I'm going to read to you right from the proposal from PharMerica. It's Schedule A8, Program Description. PharMerica's Medication Management Computing Platform, the system, which team includes the Medication Management Computing Platform and software included therein, is a core component of the provider's pharmacy vending solution. The system contains proprietary patent-pending computer software for use in the creation, management, and storage of pharmacy and/or patient data. The system is designed to provide the following functions at the customer's facilities covered by the pharmacy service agreement: computerized ordering for pharmaceutical products, computerized electronic medication administration records, treatment administration records and physician order sheets, and computerized management of bedside point-of-care components of the pharmacy program. The parties agree to implement the system in accordance with this schedule. This is the software that comes with this program. This is not what we're talking about doing if we stay with Falks. What we're talking about doing there is an interface and some electronic ordering, but it's not a system that they're looking at and have software and patents for that provide some of the things I mentioned in the very beginning, so it's clear, and that's the protections and the reporting and some of the other things that are there, the feedback that comes right through the system as to whether the medication was provided or not provided, and a number of other things that happen during the processing of pharmaceuticals to patients. I don't really want to carry this on. I don't want to keep saying things that are not the facts of what we're looking at doing in this contract. That's the fact. That's what's in the contract. That's one of the big things we're trying to accomplish here. And to say they're both the same is not reality, and we shouldn't be saying they're both the same.
Commissioner Fink?
The response to that is they are not the same. That's exactly right. And the portions of the Keen program that's being used as an off-the-shelf program made by a manufacturer, it is similar to the solution that we have in our current system at this point. What makes them unique on that proposal is that the interface that needs to be set up had to be developed in order to get it done. And in this particular case, the EMARS stuff that's already there interfaces with our stuff in a tightly integrated program. The issue here is that no one, not one of us, but they, the folks who are on either side, know what the relationship is and what's going on. I can sit here and tell you today, if you talk to the nurses down at Lakeshore Lutheran, they will tell you that they are losing their butt in time trying to figure out how to take from one program and input it into another because the interfaces aren't working. Now, I don't want to go down this road either because we'll get argued and we'll get angry and we'll go wherever we're going to go. I want to vote on this, but the fact of the matter is that there are challenges at this particular point with that program, and we're saying ours will integrate and it needs to be trained.
Dennis, you've gone down just about every road possible today. But we're
Well,
not
I'm
done.
following
We're not
down
done
the
yet.
road.
Well,
I'm following my
Al?
leader.
Just a very quick response. We're not going to argue or get angry about anything at this table, okay?
right, that's
That's
correct.
true.
That's
We're
correct. We're not
simply
getting
going to
angry.
talk the facts. We don't have a system. We don't have anything at that nursing home right now. What we're trying to do is to get one system, a system, that will in fact benefit the residents there as well as the county in putting that system in. And to say we have the system there, to say they'll interface with anybody, is not true. We don't have the wireless, we don't have the computers in there, we don't have anything electronic, we're still doing everything on paper. We don't have a system. And that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Will. Commissioner Crone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question on the motion before us, which is to enter into a contract with Farm America. And how many years, or what is that, annual? Is that? I haven't.
That's a good question, Commissioner Crone. Al, can you clarify that for us?
Yeah, the way it's drafted right now is it's a 3-year contract. We've talked to them a little bit about some termination languages. I'm also in the process of talking to Ecumen and anybody else that comes up there to provide us any type of a product. They've agreed to reasonable termination language just in case we end up leasing it out, in case the product doesn't work as they say will work or whatever else. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm an expert in computers because I'm certainly not, and that's why I want to make sure that we have good language in the contracts that if somehow it isn't working, we still have a way to get out. So it's 3 years, but we're working on termination language that'll let us out in a reasonable period. We haven't quite figured that out yet, but we're probably going to propose something in a 60 or a 90-day type of arrangement.
Commissioner Crone.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. Does the board have the ability to, whomever we enter into a contract with, set the length of the contract, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and could we, even the one before us, could we say, well, we really want to go 2 years or 4 years or?
You do, but there's always some reasons to negotiate certain things. Like this contract I will just read to you is May 1st, 2008 to April 30th, 2011 is the way they proposed it. That's the 3 years that I was talking about before. And the board can always say, go back and negotiate something else, or, and I don't mean to step on Dennis's toes, but I think Dennis has said that, Falks will continue to provide it without a contract based upon what they've had before. And I don't know if that's changed or not, but So my point simply is, sometimes you can go without a contract, sometimes you can go back and ask for different terms.
All right, that-
Periods, but sometimes the question is, will they agree to it based upon what they have to do to put a system in and to do some other things? And I don't know that. I do know that we've agreed on some termination language, but I don't know if they're willing to shorten the term other than the termination itself.
That was just a question I had, Mr. Chair, and then just for a comment. This issue is a very complicated one, to say the least, when you enter in the technology required to do all these things, and you see formulas and all these acronyms and so on and so forth. And there are so many facets to this issue, you know, more than the normal issues that come before us. I mean, we've got considerations of our administration. Norma's been doing a terrific job up there. She's heard our message to, you know, that we need that certain level of subsidy, and that's it. And she's been working on that, and the staff has been working on that. So we have our administration to consider. We have the resident care. Norma mentioned the face-to-face service that she's concerned about. That you know, that's top priority, is the services to the residents that are up there. We have the subsidization issue that is in the back of our minds. We have our employees. We have the local business facet into this and their employees. We have overall service that whomever the contract goes to, we have that service factor that we have to look at. And by the way, I haven't, as an individual commissioner, gotten any calls as to lack of service or any reports of bad service under the current contract. Then we have the indirect facets of this issue, which go down to the local investment, to our tax capacity issues. I mean, this can go on forever as far as the ramifications of something like this. I said all that to say, to get back to our administration and the fact that I believe that this board has a proven record of trying to support administration in their efforts wherever we can to reduce the subsidy to Chris Jensen and have good service. We've bonded for physical improvements at the facilities. We've implemented the safety lifts that we all know about, that up there that have you know, saved money in certain areas of the budget. The whole laundry situation, this board has come behind those improvements, and that's quite a substantial amount of dollars and substantial amount of savings that we're looking at down the road. We've been pushing for the civil service reform to help that whole part of the component, and not just in Chris Jensen, but in the county in general. And the board has supported with, of course, the subsidies, and I see that there are 2 rangers on the board that you know, are tilting toward, I believe, if I'm hearing right, they're tilting toward continuing with the same provider that we have, and they've got that subsidy in the back of their minds looking at that. So as Norma, if Norma ever comes back and says, gee, you went with the same provider and now that cost us another X amount of dollars, they would certainly take that into consideration. So we have all these facets of an issue to look at. When I get down to my bottom line on this, and I'm not saying this to be critical of anyone, but I don't have a firm figure to look at to say, you know, here's this contract here, here's this contract here, and here's an exact amount of savings. I'm hearing kind of a moving target as far as that goes, but that's the nature of this issue. It's complicated in that, and I don't know where it's going to end up. But as for me in voting for this today, I tend to think that we ought to continue with the same provider. I don't know what kind of a contract, or that's why I asked the question of how long are these contracts, and can we put our own figure in that. But I look at all these things and I say, yeah, I hear what administration is saying, but I see all these other facets, and and the subsidy in the bottom line, and I would have to, at this point, vote against the motion that's on the floor, and then look at what we may do with the current provider and how to continue that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair, or former Chair Cronin.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Don't put me back there.
Right. I know Norma had a question and a comment, so I'm going to ask her to step back up to the table. I was going to ask her a couple questions, but I think I'll just let her say her piece.
Prior to today, I've never seen the people from Volks, except for Jackie, once. There's been no talk of technology. There's been no talk of assisting us into this millennium. Nothing has been offered to us to improve the medication administration system at Chris Jensen. Very unfairly, Volks was given a copy of PharMerica's proposal. The same didn't happen. PharMerica did not get Volks' proposal. How fair of a business practice is that? In terms of gamesmanship, John Korsendorfer and Paul Libben are executives with Ecumen, two of the most honest gentlemen I have ever worked with. They tell me 6 months of data saves $60,000 at Bayshore. Well, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to say if you continue to serve 5 to 13 Medicare people every day, you will have $120,000 in a year, because that's what they did for 6 months. Those kind of predictions are made each and every day, and you all do that. You all do that. So don't give me this business about you want a year's worth of data. That's just bullpucky. So you asked for a budget under $500,000 loss. We delivered that. Now we're asking for some more help. We need more nursing assistant time. This PharMerica contract will give us that time. Commissioner Fink and Commissioner O'Neill, you can come to the next Family Council meeting and you can answer this question. Why did you give Steve Preston $120,000 instead of 2 more aides to Chris Jensen? Why did you do that? Because that's what they care about. That's what I answer to each and every day. Norman, why aren't there more people here to feed my husband? Well, we paid it to Steve Preston instead. Answer that. That's what it comes down to, people. The bottom line is how many hands we have to take care of people in that nursing home, and here is a potential of $120,000, except its potential is higher because we have cared for 16 Medicare people each day so far this year. Bayshore has 5 to 13 each day for 6 months, $60,000 savings. We have 16 Medicare people every day this year, so that potentially is more savings. I don't know how business people make decisions. That's how I make decisions. But if you want to keep business, why haven't I seen these people back here telling me what's available? What can save my staff time? What can improve accuracy? What can decrease errors? Why haven't I seen that? No way. Not till the RFI came out. And then I still haven't seen them. Not at all. I hear all the things Commissioner Crone enumerated. Just needs to be one more. Needs to be one more. You're tying our hands. You're simply tying our hands. You want the best nursing home possible. You want high quality care and services and a big decision that nets some money. No, it's not going to happen. It's demoralizing. Bottom line, it's demoralizing. We work hard every day. People sweat blood and tears up there because they don't have enough time. So I don't get it. I just don't get it. I just don't. So, questions?
Any questions for Norman?
Not a question so much as a comment that I don't think Norma realizes it, but she's probably one of the most refreshing people that I know. I mean, she and I just had a little bit of an argument in the hallway on my view on local purchase versus the fact that there's some money savings there. And I'll tell you what, Norma, if you don't understand, I appreciate it. I do. I like a straight talker, and I understand exactly where you're at. I really do. I just feel, as a commissioner, I'm literally weighing the dollars into the community, for a product that, and the nursing home. And the other thing is, I know you absolutely believe and you explained it very well, the $60,000 at Bayshore and how it was arrived with, 5 to 13 Medicare and ours up at 16. I can understand where there can be savings and stuff. But at the same time, I keep remembering, not you, but I remember that much like we had with Benedictine, we had White Pharmacy, and now we have Ecumen, who has an agreement with Farm America, and it's like I don't know. It's almost like bring my people in. And I don't know. I just have a difficulty trying to get my hands completely around it there.
I have a problem. Thrifty White contacted me 2 months after the RFI period closed, and they wanted to resubmit. And I said, no, the deadline is passed. So I played by the rules. We didn't all play by the rules. Why isn't Farm America here so they can talk the same thing across the room on interface and all of that stuff? I mean, this is just not the way to operate a business if that's what you think you're doing at Christensen. It just is not.
Mr. Chair, for a follow-up?
Yes.
Just to follow up, one of the reasons that I fear of us, meaning St. Louis County, and a government being involved in the nursing home business is exactly what you just said, Norma, is that what our government elected officials who have virtually no knowledge of nursing homes and stuff other than what are we doing in the business? That question goes through my mind every day, and I don't think that, I think that if the bottom line, you and I would probably be in agreement that governments maybe are the wrong people to be running nursing homes. So.
Norma?
Is there any, let me ask this, is there any governing agency, state or federal, that would say, you can get this service for $1. Why are you paying 10? Is there anyone that checks out that stuff? Because that's exactly what we need in this situation. Why would we pay more for less service? That's the bottom line here.
It's a good question, and as we know, that unfortunately the Pentagon has a long history of that kind of decision making. And they're not the only ones. They're not the only ones, but we read about their decision making like that regularly. Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner O'Neill. Norma, I've farmed all my life, and I've never heard of bullpucky, so
Stepped on the farm.
Except on the farm, okay.
Except before or after step on something.
I had to clean it up.
I absolutely appreciate where you're coming from on this, and with that candor, I'm going to give you some of my own, okay? Because if I have a frustration, it is in this respect. I have, as a range commissioner, I have voted many times to subsidize this nursing home. And as I look back over the years, I mean, it's to the tune of just in my tenure, $8.5, $9 million. That does not count the investments that we have made up there in machinery and in infrastructure in an attempt to make it viable in any way we can. If I have a frustration, I believe, really from the bottom of my heart, that there's going to come a day when Ecumen or someone like Ecumen is going to be managing that nursing home in its entirety. I believe that day is coming. I'm struggling with one thing. I'm struggling with me as one of 7 people in this county with levy authority subsidizing that any corporation as they go through the process to find out whether or not it can or can't be profitable. And I struggle with that because essentially what we have, in discussions, what we have been asked is that, well, give us a year or give us 2 years. And I don't have a great deal of patience for that, for waiting that length of time. Because in my world, okay, in the corporate world, I will tell you that in 31 years of business, 31 years as of February 8th, I have never taken a nickel from the government in any way, mean, or form, as a subsidy, a grant, anything to do with, and that includes my farm, which is not easy to do. But the point is that I think if we look at this holistically, I believe that the day is coming when someone has to manage that nursing home, because government, I don't believe, is going to be able to get that place to a point where we can say, this is good, this is okay. And so if you have a frustration, understand that I do as well. I believe very strongly in local business, but that's not the whole reason for voting for an extension. Because one of the reasons that I would be voting for an extension is to really try and shorten up that transition period between what is today and what is inevitable. And that's really where I'm at. So, and believe me, I know what cleaning out the bullpen is, okay? Because I do it a lot on a very regular basis, and I know what it looks like. But I'm being straight with you. From my vantage point, that's what I'm looking at, and saying that at least on the interim, I'm comfortable with remaining where we sit to really feel the situation out and make certain that as we move forward that we are moving forward very judiciously, and because the money I spend isn't mine. It's money I have to go out and ask people for, and so that's just where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sweeney, you got a minute?
Excuse me. And I apologize for leaving, but I put in a call to Representative Murphy, and she returned my call, and it had to do with our civil service stuff. It's not good news. So, anyway, I guess I can count here, and so I am going to remove my second for this and request that we put this over to next week, and that we invite Farm America to be here at the table. I mentioned this from the very start. Number one, why would we just invite one company to come and give us their presentation? And I do appreciate that both Norma and Al have done an admirable job of presenting for them. The other thing that really disturbs me is that I don't understand why the late entrance into this by Falls Pharmacy. It's again that they've been given a benefit that the other company hasn't been given. The other company, we're going on what they told us back in, what's the date on that? August. We're going on what they told us back in August. They might want to sweeten the pot now. They might want to do something different too. Because this is definitely a sweetening of the pot over what was originally presented. They did not even qualify based on what they presented back in August. That was my understanding. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if you've got a true process here, then and if we're going to open it up and go back and forth, then Farm America should be allowed to put in a different proposal.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah?
I just want to say, number one, we did not invite them. They called and asked if they could come. Anybody can address this board, whether it's at a board meeting or a committee meeting. They asked if they could come. We told them what the date was, which we would do for anybody else. That's number one. Number two, Farm America was not asked to come, but I said at the very beginning, I believe it's an issue of integrity. I said that. It's an issue of integrity. I can't tell you why it didn't get done between October and today because I wasn't here, but I still said part of the recommendation is Farm America has an issue of integrity because back when they were opened, there was only one that met the qualifications being asked for.
Exactly.
If 4 commissioners don't wish to accept that, I don't know that Norma and I can do anything about it. We told you that that was the situation at that time, that it was reviewed, and the committee that reviewed it only found one group to meet the qualifications. That was said to this board. Okay? So, no, we did not invite them. No, they were not given any special opportunity because anybody can address this board. And 3, I talked about integrity and the fact that there's only one company that qualified, and that's part of why I was here recommending that we go with them. So I just want that clear.
Okay. Commissioner Raufer?
Well, you know, the question has been raised about, and we've all heard it on talk show radio and in newscasts, is that government should try to operate more like a business. And there's times when you can and times when there can't. But if there's anything that's clear, is that one of the reasons government can't operate sometimes like a business is because there's politics involved. And politics make a difference in the decisions that are made by government. And that is what it is. And I don't feel that I need any more information. When I hear that only one of the respondents qualified for the RFI, I don't need to hear any more information. I've placed my trust in my own philosophy that in being consistent in the recommendations of our managers and our administrators. And I just have to say that if it walks like a duck, and it looks like a duck, but it crows like a rooster, what is it? Perhaps it's just a hybrid, and I'm just not aware of what that is.
Okay, I'm going to remind us that Commissioner Sweeney has withdrawn her second, and to be honest with you, I'm ready to withdraw my motion. So we don't have a motion on the floor now. Actually, I would recommend, just 1 second, I would recommend, in light of, Farm America's not here. I realize that our administration did a good job in presenting the case. Norman did a good job. But for whatever reason, and Commissioner Rocker might well be right, Commissioner Crone made good points about this. I think I would say at this point it would make sense for us to hold off on this. We were very close to doing a contract with Ecumen. We want, I think, just to remind us, we don't want to lose more than $500,000 a year at Chris Jensen. The majority of us agreed we want Chris Jensen operating. We want a quality job up there. So my sense is that we should wait, have this discussion again, and see where Ecumen, who ideally and perhaps is going to be running this nursing home for us, maybe they should be at this next discussion as well. I just don't think that we're at a good place to make a decision on this. Commissioner Forsyth.
To that point there, as part of what I said, maybe it was lost in all of the things that I said, is that I do believe that if this board did get into a contract with Ecumen to manage the facility, that decision would not come to this board. That decision would be a decision of our managers as far as the pharmaceuticals and those kinds of things. I actually think that would be part of the management contract that would we expect from them. So maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way I would see it.
Commissioner Fink.
Well, we've worked this thing through to death. The reality is that tomorrow there will be some kind of administrative contract come in that has something to do with Ecumen. It will not be a contract that says that they're going to operate it free and clear of this county board. It will not have a leasing contract in it. There will be a number of things that we probably all would expect to be there. It's not going to be there. So under those circumstances, I'm going to move, as the board letter was intended to give some recommendation to administration to move forward, I would move that they enter into a contract, a relatively short-term contract with Falks By short term, I'm looking at some time in the time frame that we talked about between the next year and 18 months that's acceptable to folks and gives us the flexibility to do something. And I would ask that one other thing be included in that, and that be that some form of training program be done to assist in having our computer programs compatible, so that we can see if there's some savings involved in the way that the administration of the drugs has taken place in our system.
Is there a second for that motion?
Can I ask a question? Because I heard, I didn't hear I didn't hear a date
Sure,
on the
ask
motion.
your question.
I'm asking them to negotiate whatever that date is.
Could we redefine that as a date that, and be perhaps more instructive to our administrator to review this?
Yeah, I would do.
And come back to us with a recommendation within the next 60 days?
Well, actually, I would consider some.
Because I want to see Ecumen's deal in place before I do this. That's part of what bothers me on this thing.
All right. Dave will be back to us in 60 days with a
Well,
contract.
no, just leave it open to our administration that it would be there until we came back with an agreement with Ecumen, and then that it would be brought back to the board at that point.
What do we need a motion for?
We don't.
That was my question. I'm trying to.
Do we need a motion?
Not if that's what you wish to do.
No, you know what? I'm going to do a motion.
For how long?
No greater than 15 months.
Well, that's essentially the same thing I talked about, so yeah, I'll support that. No greater than, because our administrator is going to have to work through that with Ecumen and come back to us with something.
Okay.
Okay. Paul, do you have that?
I would like to, Chair O'Neill, ask for clarification. Is this contract no more than 15 months with folks? And then there was also
Yeah, and then just one other thing.
Training program?
Under that particular portion, to try and implement that computer program that's talked about in their proposal as well.
Do you have it then, Paul?
What I got to do with implement their computer program as contained in their proposal.
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions? Just 1 second, Martha. I'm going to first go to Steve, and then I will go to you.
Well, I would yield to...
Okay. Norma?
I have no vote. But why can't we just continue business as usual until some decision is recommended or made via the Ecumen purchase of service? It makes absolutely no sense for the nursing staff of Christensen to be the guinea pig for Falk Pharmacy's technology. And if it's not going to stay there, we're not going to keep Health Medics. If we have an Ecumen agreement, we're switching to Keene. At this point in time, that's enough to change amongst nursing staff than to try to learn e-pharmacy that may or may not last either. So business as usual, no new contract, extend the one we have, and forget technology until someone comes to their senses.
Appreciate your frankness. Just remind you that, Norma is our administrator here. And she's worked in this industry her whole life, just about. She's an expert, and she's done a great job for us. We all agree, and she has no horse in this race. She's leaving.
Okay, so I'm done. I withdraw the motion. Let's move on to the next issue.
Okay. So we have no motion on the floor now.
Nothing.
So is it our understanding that we will continue with Fox for right now, and we will ask administration to study this, to study what options that we have in the next 60 days, 30 days?
We are going to allow this to go on.
I'm not making a motion. I'm just clarifying where we're at.
No, I'm following the line.
Next. I'm the chair. I have not recognized.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm just trying to clarify where we're at, and I would ask our administrator to do so.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, you've taken no action, and will continue as is until we come back with a further recommendation.
Right.
And I will tell you right out, the further recommendation is most likely going to come in that May 1st period, between April 1st and May 1st, when we bring the Ecumen contract and the reasons that we're looking at going with them. And if you make the decision to go with them, then it'll probably follow right behind that, once again to discuss it.
That sounds good. Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just a brief comment,
Commissioner Rocker?
if I could, Mr. Chair. I just want to say that if there's anything I'm quite confident of is that we will not be able to stay within the $500,000 threshold that we established for operations of this facility in the coming year. And I can tell you from my perspective, as I see it now, we are admittedly heading down the path of getting out of the nursing home business, because I do not think there will be the wherewithal to support ongoing subsidies as they grow, with the board's reluctance to try to find or support proposed savings. And we need to be prepared for that in 2009. So that's really where I see us going. Is we will be getting out of the nursing home business, in good, bad, or otherwise. Will happen without our decision.
Thank you. Commissioner Forsman?
I'll pass.
Okay, well, I'll just say, well, that's your opinion, Commissioner Rocker.
It is.
I always appreciate your opinion, but, we've not made a vote on that. And I would remind us that it's morale at Chris Jensen when people say we're getting out of the nursing home business.
I'm only one person.
So, Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Chair Commissioner O'Neill. I would be a second person on the board making that same statement, but since we may not see, Norma, I did see a letter that she will be moving on to other things at some point here, and since we may not see her back before this Ecumen piece, at least from this board member's perspective, you are truly a breath of fresh air. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Forsman?
I guess that was what I raised my hand for. I was going to say that. I saw it. So I absolutely agree with Commissioner Nelson, and I think most members of the board. Norma, you've been a breath of fresh air. Obviously, today you and I haven't been in total agreement, but you said it the best. You said you're an administrator and you're a damn good one, but at the same, and you're not an elected official. And as an elected official, I'm really trying to look a little bit broader than just the nursing home. I really am trying to look at those jobs as they exist throughout St. Louis County, and that's where the difference is. But you know what? You're appreciated. If you haven't figured it out yet, we don't really want you to go. Even if we disagree, we don't. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think that ends this committee, thank God. And
I'm not so sure that he deserves thanks on this one.
Okay, definitely deserves thanks on this. And I will pass it back to you, Commissioner Forsman.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair O'Neill. And let's see. And
I will say we have Tony waiting here for hours too. So.
And we have Tony here, and I think that let's see. We have Chair. Well, you know what? Let's go right in order. Tony will be up real quickly.